My parents gave my apartment to my brother's family. Now they expect me to pay rent while I sleep in a storage closet. Hello everyone. I never expected to be writing something like this, yet here we are. A friend suggested I put this here, and I could use an outside viewpoint. My name is Alex, and I'm 26 years old. I feel like I've been the one keeping my family afloat for as long as I can remember. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. You know, I earned good grades, completed my chores, and never got in trouble. However, my younger brother Ryan, let's just say, received the favorite moniker early on, and it stayed. He's 2 years younger than me, and while I was doing everything correctly, he was being spoiled. I'm talking about nicer Christmas gifts, greater patience when he makes mistakes, and generally less pressure. Don't get me wrong, I like my brother, but it's always evident that he is my parents' favorite child. Fast forward to maturity, and little has changed. I've had consistent jobs since I was old enough to work. I started doing landscaping and worked my way up to my current position as a project manager for a technology company. It's not flashy, but it's secure, and I've always been good at saving and keeping track of my costs. Ryan, on the other hand, chose a different path. He's always wanted to be his own boss, which sounds great in theory but has resulted in a series of disastrous ventures. His last firm, a small electronics repair shop, closed approximately a year ago, leaving him in a difficult situation. Ryan is married to Jenna, a 24-year-old woman with 2 young children, Ethan and Sophie. They're adorable, and I've always tried to be the cool uncle whenever I could. But, let's be honest, raising children is expensive, and Ryan and Jenna haven't been particularly good with money. I understand, even if things are harsh for everyone. What I didn't understand was how my parents chose to handle the problem. I've been renting the basement suite in my parents' house for a few years now. This is a good setup. I have my own door, a little kitchen, and enough room to live peacefully without feeling like an intruder. I pay the rent and contribute to groceries and other household expenses as needed. Everything went smoothly until approximately a year ago when Ryan lost his shop. At first, he and Jenna attempted to make things work on their own. They moved into a smaller apartment and began reducing back, but it was insufficient. I knew their finances were tight, so I tried to help by buying diapers here and there and offered to babysit when they needed a break. However, it appears that my assistance was inadequate. Ryan's tendency to prioritize the wrong things made matters worse. I once handed them money to buy groceries, only to watch Jenna flaunt a new purse on social media the next day. I'm not sure what their priorities were, but they certainly weren't on the necessities. One day I returned home from work to find my parents waiting for me in the kitchen. My mother's "we need to talk" expression is never a good sign. She began, "Alex, we need to talk about Ryan and Jenna." That's when I knew something was up. They wasted no time in informing me that Ryan and his family were moving into the basement suite, which was also my basement suite, and that I would be relegated to the hobby room. To be clear, the hobby room is a small, chaotic area on the main floor where my mother keeps her sewing machine, piles of fabric, and a variety of Christmas decorations. It's not quite livable. I was stunned. What? How am I supposed to live in the hobby room? I was confused. My father, always a man of few words, simply remarked, "It's the only thing that makes sense. They have kids, Alex. They need the space more than you do." I tried to remain calm, but it wasn't easy. "I pay rent here," I explained. "That's my apartment." My mother's response was typical. "It's our house, Alex, and as a family, we need to do what's best for everyone." Essentially, it was their logic. Because it was their residence, my contributions, rent, expenses, and assistance did not appear to matter. Ryan's needs came first, with no questions asked. I wanted to disagree, but it was evident they had their minds made up. My mom was already talking about how they'd changed the hobby room to make it cozy for me, as if putting a pillow and blanket in there would miraculously make everything better. My father merely sat there, seemingly uninterested in discussing it further. The worst aspect was that they did not even ask for my opinion. They made a decision, and I was expected to follow suit. It didn't take long for things to spin out of control once they decided not to move Ryan and his family into the basement. I tried to keep my head down and deal with it, but it seemed like everything was a reminder that I wasn't even a priority in my own family. The move happened too quickly. It was as if I lived in the basement suite one day and was kicked out the next. Ryan and Jenna did not spend time settling in. Toys, baby gear, and their cooking supplies all arrived in a flurry of boxes, strollers, and chaos. Meanwhile, I was trapped attempting to fit my entire existence into the so-called hobby room. Let me tell you, calling it a room is overly charitable. It's more of a glorified storage closet, with just enough room for a single bed. No windows, no decent doors, and no privacy. I tried so hard to make it work, but every day I felt like an afterthought. Ryan and Jenna moved in as if they owned the property, and my parents pretended everything was okay, as if I hadn't been pushed into the closet. When I got home from work, there were toys all over the place, the kitchen was a mess, and there was no sense of privacy. When I returned from work, there was scarcely any food left for me. I was trying to remain calm and ignore the trivial things, but everything was building up inside me to the point that it began to interfere with my attention and productivity at work. So I tried to discuss it with my parents the next day. Look, I get that Ryan and Jenna are going through a hard time, I complained, but this isn't fair. I pay rent, I help out, and now I'm stuck in a storage room while they get the whole basement? My father did not even look up from his phone. It's only temporary, he remarked. How temporary? I inquired. As long as they need, my mother responded simply, as if it clarified everything. And that was all. There was no negotiation, no admission of how unfair this was. Just a hazy promise that things might change eventually. To make matters worse, Ryan did not appear to appreciate what he was given. I couldn't help but feel bitter when I heard him and Jenna bickering late at night about money, their kids, or whatever. I was giving up my space so they could have a roof over their heads, yet they couldn't even stay together. One night, I overheard them arguing about Ryan splurging on jewelry for Jenna, stating he wanted to cheer her up, despite the fact that they hadn't refilled the kids' formula. It made me wonder why I was assisting at all. I came home one day to discover my nephew, Ethan, playing in my room. He'd gotten into one of the fabric containers my mother had placed there and was pulling out thread spools like they were toys. "Look, Uncle Alex," he exclaimed, holding out a twisted ball of yarn. "Hey, buddy," I murmured, trying to remain calm. "This isn't a playroom, okay? Can you go back downstairs?" Of course, my mother overheard. "Alex, don't be so harsh," she urged, leaping in to save Ethan as if I had just reprimanded him for breathing. "He's just a kid." "I know he's a kid," I informed him. "But this is my space, what little of it I have." She just gave me the look that suggests I'm being unreasonable, and escorted Ethan out without saying anything. It wasn't just the children, however. Ryan and Jenna appeared to forget that I was still living there. Ryan didn't bother buying anything when we ran out of groceries, which happened sooner than usual because we had kids in the house. The fact is, I don't blame the children. They're just kids, and they don't know better. But what about Ryan and Jenna? They should have bent over backwards to express their gratitude. Instead, it felt as if they saw me as an extra roommate who was only there to pick up the pieces. A few weeks later, things escalated. I was working from home, which was already difficult in that tiny space, and the noise from downstairs was awful. I could hear the kids running around, Ryan yelling about something, and Jenna chatting on the phone loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. At that time, I had lost it. I marched downstairs and shouted, "Can you guys please keep it down? I'm trying to work up there." Ryan gave me an astonished look, as if I had asked an inappropriate question. "It's not like we're doing it on purpose," he told me. "What do you expect with 2 kids?" "I expect a little consideration," I said. "I gave up my apartment for you. The least you could do is not make it impossible for me to do my job." That's when my mother stepped in to play referee. "Alex, don't start a fight," she said. "They're doing the best they can." I could not believe it. I was the one who had been displaced, the one who had gone above and beyond to accommodate everyone else, and yet I was the source of trouble. That night, I realized I couldn't do this anymore. My folks were obviously not going to stick up for me. Ryan and Jenna were not about to change, and as long as I stayed, I'd only be pushed deeper into the background. The next day, I started looking for a place to stay. I couldn't afford to move out altogether due to the high cost of rent, but I did find a cheap resort that provided short-term stays. It wasn't fancy, but it had everything I needed. Most significantly, peace and quiet. I booked it for a week to clear my mind and plan my next actions. That evening, I packed my belongings and sat down with my folks in the living room to explain my plans. My mother's face screwed up in displeasure as soon as I considered leaving. Leaving? What do you mean, leaving? She asked, folding her arms. I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while, I said, attempting to maintain a cool tone. I need some space to think and figure things out. My father scoffed. What's there to figure out? Your brother's family needs the basement and we need you to pitch in for the house. You can't just walk away from your responsibilities. My responsibilities, I countered. The only responsibility I had was paying for my own space, and you gave that away without even asking me. Now you want me to stick around and pay for a house I'm barely allowed to exist in? Are you serious? Mom gave an exasperated sigh. It's not about that. It's about family. We all have to make sacrifices sometimes. Sacrifices, I said, my voice rising. I've been sacrificing for years, paying rent, buying groceries, bailing you out whenever there's an emergency. And what do I get in return? A closet and a pat on the back for being such a good sport? Mom's tone shifted. Well, if that's how you feel, maybe it's for the best that you take a little time away. But don't be gone too long. You know we're counting on you. Counting on me? I yelled. For what? To keep enabling Ryan's bad decisions? To keep cleaning up messes I didn't make? I'm done. Before they could finish speaking, I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. My hands shook as I got into my car. The first few days at the resort were blissful. No screaming children, no dirty dishes, and no passive-aggressive comments from my mother. I felt as though I could truly breathe. However, the peace did not endure long. On the third day, I received an SMS from my mother. Alex, where's the money for rent and groceries? We're counting on it to help Ryan and the kids. I gazed at my phone, perplexed. I wasn't even living there anymore, yet she expected me to contribute. I called her immediately. Mom, I'm not even at the house right now. Why would I pay rent? Her remark was just what I would have expected. Because we're family, Alex. Ryan and Jenna need that space and they can't afford it on their own. You know how tight things are for us. I couldn't hold back. Tight for you? You kicked me out of my own apartment without asking, and now you expect me to keep paying for it. That's insane. She passed the phone to my father, who didn't spend any time lying to me. This is typical of you, Alex. Always thinking about yourself. Your brother is struggling, and all you can do is complain. Have some decency. Before I could react, I heard Ryan's voice in the background. Let me talk to him. Alex, Mr. Ryan replied. You don't get it. You don't have kids. You don't know what it's like to have mouths to feed and bills piling up. We're family, you're supposed to help. I lost it. You're right, Ryan, I don't have kids. But I also don't expect everyone else to fix my problems for me. You're not my responsibility, and neither is your family. The call ended with my mother crying, my father calling me selfish, and Ryan muttering something about how I would regret it. After the argument over rent and groceries, everything stayed quiet for a few days. Quiet, yet not calm. You know how you feel when you're simply waiting for the other shoe to drop? That is where I was. I knew my family wouldn't let me go away. A few days later, I received a text from my mother. We're having a family meeting Sunday. Everyone will be there. It's important. Now, when my mother says family meeting, it is never actually a meeting. It is more like an ambush. I knew this was going to be a mob attack on me. But a part of me hoped that this was an opportunity to explain my perspective. On Sunday, I walked into the living room to see not only my parents and Ryan, but also my aunts, uncles, and a number of cousins. It was like a tiny family reunion. But the atmosphere was anything but cheerful. Everyone was seated in a circle, and as soon as I went in, I sensed the judgment. Alex, we're all here because we're worried about you, my mother said, using her concerned parent voice. Are you worried about me? I asked, taking a seat. What exactly are you worried about? My father jumped in. Your behavior lately. It's not like you, Alex. You're acting weird. Weird? Of course, it was the word they used if I didn't do precisely what they wanted. Weird, I said. For not wanting to pay for a house I don't live in? For being upset that you kicked me out of my own apartment without asking? Alex, we're family. my mother responded as if that clarified everything. Family sticks together. And right now, Ryan needs our help. That's when Ryan decided to join in. I understand this has been difficult for you, he added, attempting to appear reasonable. But you don't understand what it's like to have kids. Ethan keeps asking why you don't visit anymore. Do you want me to tell him his uncle doesn't care about him? I swear I felt my blood pressure rise. Are you serious, Ryan? You're going to use your kid to guilt trip me now? How about you tell him the truth that I'm tired of being treated like an ATM and a doormat? Alex, my mother exclaimed, shocked. That's uncalled for. Uncalled for? I inquired, turning to her. What's uncalled for is the way you've treated me. I've been paying rent here for years. I've helped out with groceries, bills, whatever you needed. And the one time I asked for a little respect, I'm the bad guy? How is that fair? My aunt decided to join in at this time. Alex, you've always been the responsible one. Your parents count on you because they know you'll step up. But this attitude of yours, it's not who you are. I wanted to laugh. Responsible, sure. But that didn't mean I wanted to be the family's punching bag forever. Being responsible doesn't mean letting people walk all over me, I told them. And that's exactly what's been happening. You all act like I owe Ryan and Jenna something just because they've got kids. But where were all of you when I needed help? Oh right, you were busy telling me to step up. The room fell silent for a moment. But then my father spoke up. This isn't about the past, Alex. It's about right now. Your brother is struggling, and we're trying to hold the family together. Why can't you see that? Because no one asked me, I exclaimed. You didn't come to me and say, hey Alex, we're in a tough spot. Can we figure something out? You just decided that my life didn't matter as much as Ryan's. You didn't give me a choice. At this moment, my mother began to cry, which was her go-to reaction when things didn't go her way. I just don't understand how you can be so cold, she told me. We raised you better than this. You raised me to put everyone else first, I told you. And look where it has gotten me. Living in a storage room while Ryan and Jenna take over my space, using my groceries and expecting me to continue paying for them. How is that fair? Ryan attempted to jump in again, but I cut him off. Ryan, let me ask you something. When you had your shop, did you ever help Mom and Dad with bills? Did you ever pitch in for groceries or anything else? He appeared uneasy. That's different, he muttered. Oh, it's different, I said back. Because I can't count how many times I've helped you out with money just for you to blow it on something stupid. Like when I bought groceries for your family, and Jenna magically ended up with a new Chanel bag the next day. Or when you were late on rent and you still found a way to get her a spa gift card. Do you even realize how insulting that is? Ryan's cheeks turned scarlet, but he had no response. No, it's not, I replied. You didn't help out while you were doing well, but now that you're struggling, everyone wants me to make up the difference. I'm finished. I'm not going to pay another penny for that house. If you need money, handle it like a grown-up. My mother burst into tears and my father looked at me as if I had insulted the family name. You're tearing this family apart, she added, sobbing. No, I replied, rising up. You did that when you decided Ryan was more important than me. I walked out of the home without saying anything else. As I got into my car, my phone started vibrating with texts from cousins and aunts, all telling me I was selfish and immature. I didn't even bother reading them. After the so-called family gathering, I chose to keep my distance for a bit. I didn't block anyone, but I did stop responding to their calls and texts. I needed some time to think about my future actions without the continual guilt trips and manipulations. At first it worked. After a few weeks, my phone was still vibrating with the occasional, Alex, call us, or, why won't you talk to us? Message. I generally ignored it. I even began to feel a little lighter, as if I could finally focus on myself for once. But then my mom did something unexpected. She contacted my job. I found out about it when my manager approached me during a break. Hey Alex, he continued, appearing embarrassed. We had a call from someone claiming to be your mother. She stated you're dealing with some family concerns and may require some time off. I just stared at him, absolutely surprised. What? No. I didn't ask for time off and I'm not sure why she called. Well, I suspected that would be the case, my manager answered, attempting to seem empathetic. But she left a rather comprehensive note. She mentioned something about your sibling and housing troubles. I was ashamed. My personal life, which I had worked so hard to keep apart from work, was now in the open, due to my mother. That evening, I phoned her. What the hell were you thinking, Mom? I was worried about you, she replied, her tone guarded. You haven't been answering our calls, and I thought maybe you needed help. So you thought calling my supervisor was the answer? I yelled. Do you realize how unprofessional that makes me look? I didn't mean to embarrass you, she began, her voice trailing off. I just wanted them to understand what you're going through. What I'm going through is because of you, I stated bluntly. You kicked me out of my house, ignored everything I said at the family meeting, and are now interfering with my employment. Enough is enough, Mom. Stay out of my professional life. She didn't take it well. She began crying again and handed the phone to my father, who, inevitably, labeled me selfish and ungrateful. Your mom was trying to help, he told you. You don't have to treat her like this. I wouldn't have to say anything if she hadn't crossed the boundary, I explained. This isn't okay, Dad. None of this is acceptable. But it did not end there. The next day, I began receiving messages from extended family members, cousins, aunts, and even people I hadn't spoken to in years. Ryan had apparently resorted to social media to wash our dirty laundry, and while he didn't identify me by name, the posts were definitely about me. Real families step up when it matters, one message stated. Some people only care about themselves, even when their own blood is struggling. The responses were filled with sympathy for Ryan. Stay strong, a reader said. You're doing the best you can, and that's all that matters. You don't need toxic people in your life, another added. Toxic, that's what I was, evidently. At first, I tried to ignore it, but the more I scrolled, the angrier I became. Ryan was out here playing the victim, painting me as some heartless villain, and no one, not a single person, was asking for my side of the story. I considered responding, publishing my own version of events, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. The people who commented on his posts had already made up their minds, and I didn't want to make this a public spectacle. Instead, I chose to phone Ryan immediately. What the hell is wrong with you? I asked as soon as he picked up. What are you talking about? He stated. Posts, Ryan. Don't act dumb. You're bashing me on social media. And for what? Because I don't want to pay for your life anymore? I didn't name you, he responded defensively. If people assume it's about you, that's not my fault. Ryan, cut the bullshit. We both know what you're doing, I said. If you have an issue with me, express it to my face. Stop hiding behind Facebook. Do you believe I don't have the right to vent? He shot back. Alex, you've left us hanging. We are family. And you just walked away. I walked away because you, Mom, and Dad forced me out, I said, raising my voice. You don't get to shame me into solving your problems, Ryan. You're a grown man acting like it. The call ended about as well as you'd expect. He hung up on me, and I realized that all possibility of saving our relationship was gone. However, Ryan opted to exacerbate the situation. After that call, I returned home from work and found him sitting on the steps outside my apartment, his car parked at the curb. What are you doing here, Ryan? I inquired, attempting to keep my voice quiet. I needed to see you. I can't believe we're here, he said, standing up. You're really just going away from all of us? Do you think you are superior to everyone else? I sighed, already tired from the conversation that I knew was coming. Ryan, I am not going away. I'm only setting boundaries. I can't keep doing this, paying for everything and sacrificing my own life, while you and Mom treat me as an afterthought. An afterthought? He repeated, his voice rising. Do you even hear yourself? I have been going through hell, Alex. I lost my job, I have 2 children to feed, and Mom and Dad are barely getting by. And now you're acting like you're the victim because we need some assistance? It's not just a little help, Ryan, I screamed. You took my space without asking, and now you're trying to shame me into staying connected despite everything you've put me through. I've been helping this family for many years. Where were you when mom and dad needed money for their mortgage? Or when I was working extra hours just to cover the groceries?" He shook his head, obviously frustrated. "You don't understand it, Alex. You've always had it easy. No children, no real responsibilities." I cut him off. "Don't. Please don't. I've carried this family on my back for years while you wasted money on unnecessary purchases. And now you want me to feel bad because I finally said, 'Enough is enough'?" Ryan's face twisted in wrath. "You make me out to be the evil person here, but I'm the one who's struggling. I am the one attempting to keep my family together. Meanwhile, you sit here with your lovely little existence, behaving as if you're too wonderful to help." I stared at him, trying to keep my fury at bay. "You do not get to do this, Ryan. You can't act like I owe you just because I worked hard and made better decisions. This isn't about not caring about you. It's about learning to care about myself." He appeared to be about to strike me for a split second before shaking his head. "You have changed, Alex. You are not the person I thought you were." "Maybe I've just stopped being the person you could walk all over," I remarked with a frown. Ryan did not respond. He turned and walked back to his car, slamming the door as he got in. That night, I sat in my apartment, replaying the argument over and over, knowing I couldn't keep doing this. It wasn't just about the basement or the rent. It was about the ongoing disrespect and entitlement. That night I texted my parents. "I love you, but I can't continue living like this. I will no longer contribute to the rent or food. I'm also taking some time away from my family. Please respect my decision and do not contact me unless it is critical." I pushed submit and blocked their numbers. It wasn't easy, but I knew I had to do it. Predictably, my cousins, aunts, and uncles bombarded me with texts accusing me of being selfish and leaving my family. Ryan, of course, was the loudest, and he began spreading lies about me to the family, claiming that I had been hoarding money, living extravagantly, and had left him and my parents in financial devastation. At one point, I learned from a mutual acquaintance that Ryan had attempted to call my boss to warn them about how untrustworthy I was. It was petty and nasty, but thankfully, my manager saw through the foolishness and stopped it. A few months later, Ryan's bitterness and poor actions finally caught up with him. He had burned so many bridges in his desire to retaliate against me that even his extended family began to distance themselves from him. Meanwhile, his lack of financial preparation reached a new low. I heard through the grapevine that he and Jenna were evicted from the house they had moved into when my parents were unable to pay the mortgage. Ryan's antics began to undermine his own life, and Jenna, fed up with his behavior and reluctant to continue scraping by, took the kids and abandoned him. He was left without a job, no family support, and nowhere to live. When I found out, I'd be lying if I claimed I felt pity for him. After everything he'd put me through, his fixation with vengeance had just gotten him further into trouble. Cutting ties with my family was difficult for me, but it turned out to be the finest decision I'd ever made. I moved to a new apartment, concentrated on my business, and even began going to therapy to work through years of animosity.